tomorrow. Back in the studio is Angela Giampolo, a Philly gay lawyer, and we're doing our special segment called Speakout. We're talking about LGBTQ issues, and of course there are more letters and numbers after that, but I'm just going to be lazy, Angela, okay?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, great. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the update on gay marriage in Pennsylvania, what the implications are, and the disconnect between the legalization of marriage and a lot of the current laws on the books that still are very discriminatory. So let's talk about where we're at with gay marriage right now.
Congratulations, Pennsylvania. We finally have gay marriage. We were number 19, but at least we weren't number 50. So we got there. As of May 21, we got gay marriage in Pennsylvania. And that had a huge impact on thousands of LGBTQ individuals everywhere. If they were married in one of the other 18 states, Massachusetts, New York, DC, then they were considered married overnight. They were always able to benefit from the federal rights, but not necessarily the state rights here in Pennsylvania. So what that means for them in terms of practicality, for years, if someone would pass away, you would have to pay a 15% inheritance tax. Here in Pennsylvania, we have one of the worst inheritance taxes for quote unquote legal strangers. And even though some of my clients have been together 42 years, if one of them passed away and the survivor of the two would have to pay 15% on all of that. That is what motivated Edie Windsor to even file the case that went all the way up to the Supreme Court to bring down part of DOMA. She ended up having to pay $363,000, whereas if she was considered legally married, would have been zero. So it has a huge impact around, obviously, the state. But like you said, the disconnect between, I tell people all the time, marriage is a choice, right? We choose to get married. I actually come from a long line of straight people that just never got married for whatever reason. They just never wanted to. But we don't choose to go to work unless you're part of the 1%ers that has trust funds and you're really lucky and you just go to work because it's fun, or you don't go to work at all. But 99% of us, the majority of us, have to go to work. And the fact that right now in Pennsylvania, you can still be fired for being gay in 40 some odd municipalities. Municipalities like Philadelphia have enacted their own protections, and there are in the higher 20s of municipalities, 27, I believe, that have done so as well. But in the other 40, you can be fired just for being gay. You could be denied a hotel room. We could walk into a hotel room holding hands and be denied a hotel room. I was on a panel once with an African-American PhD professor who obviously knew that since 1964, she was protected as an African-American woman from getting fired for being black, for denied public accommodations. But she had no idea, as we sat there on an equality panel, that she could be denied those things for being a lesbian. So we have a long ways to go in Pennsylvania. We have amazing politicians that are fighting the fight. One of the other sort of disconnects, but it has all resolved itself, but there may be some of the listeners that may not know, there was also the 174 licenses that were granted by Bruce Haynes, the Register of Wills out in Montgomery County, who, was awesome for doing what he did. And actually, July 30th is the anniversary of when he issued illegally the first way to go, Bruce. Illegally the first license to a gay couple, knowing that the Pennsylvania mini DOMA still existed. So we're having a fundraiser, an event for him on July 30th to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. But I was getting a lot of calls when Pennsylvania gay marriage became legal. I was married in Montgomery County. I was one of those 174. Am I considered legally married too? And it took another 4 or 5 days for the ACLU and the judges to figure that out. But yes, those 174 people did not have to get remarried. They were honored. And so will Register Wills Bruce Haynes on 30th.
How are the current laws in Pennsylvania and also the legalization of gay marriage impacting on child custody and those kinds of issues?
It's going to depend on whether they choose to get married. Right. So if you are deciding on family planning, or you already have children and you don't go the extra step and get married, if you get married, then it's treated the way custody has been treated in this country for hundreds of years. It's what we face when people aren't legally married. And also for people that are going through the family planning process, either through IVF and other means of conception, you still need to go through a kinship or step-parent adoption, right? You still need to go through the process of terminating whatever potential parental rights the unknown or known, especially known sperm donor may have. So in terms of custody, if you're legally married, it'll look the way it has always looked. You get into issues when you're not legally married and you have one of the two that has no legal tie to the child. And that's what the second parent adoption gives you, or, if you're married, the step parent or kinship adoption. So, as a disclaimer, if you will, if you're going into the family planning process and you don't yet have children, seek out an attorney to help you figure out the best possible way for you, given what you're looking for and your situation and your finances. And if you are already a family and have, I'm meeting with clients on Thursday that have a 13-year-old son. They've raised him since he was 0, and just like you, what does this all mean? So just consult an attorney. Everyone's situation is very specific to how they brought the child into the world or how that family came to be.
I think that's an incredibly important point, because there's certainly, of course, the gay marriage legalization makes it a lot simpler for those who choose to go that way. But there's still in this country, not only among gay couples, but really among couples in general or people in general, there are all kinds of issues related to surrogacy, someone with a turkey baster, that kind of, fertility.
I call it the modern family.
I know.
And it's not how many iPhones you have, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, modern families these days take so many different forms and shapes. People need to go into that with their eyes wide open, knowing what the potential hazards and potential outcomes could be, because they might all be kumbaya at the beginning, and then time goes on and something happens and somebody's going to have their heart broken.
Right. I always say, you don't walk into a building without knowing where the exit is. I give a lot of seminars, and companies like Boeing and Campbell's Soup, they're asking that I change it up a bit and not make it so much LGBTQ specific, to your point, but really unmarried couples. Our society places so much around, in terms of legal and financial protections, around being married, that if you're not, you have to recreate those protections. We're not getting married at 18 years old with nothing, locking arms, going, like you said, kumbaya, here we go again, and then wake up one day 20 years later with all this stuff, but we started out with nothing, so we feel like it's fair to divide everything because really we had nothing. I could own a home when we meet. You own your home. We jointly buy a third home. Knowing that couples are coming together later in life, make putting some things in writing and getting understandings about what that means, either prior to marriage or if you never choose to get married, more and more important.
And finally, very quickly, just returning back to the disconnect between legalized gay marriage in Pennsylvania and the disconnect, the various laws that don't protect people because of their sexual orientation. Where are we at with that?
Absolutely. So HB 300 has been around for several years now, and people like Ted Martin, the executive director of Equality PA, State Rep Brian Sims, and others that are fighting to get it passed. And it's looking like hopefully we will get it passed within the next 8 months to a year and a half. But if you feel as though you've been discriminated against or anything has happened, either be it with your landlord, your employer, what have you, still contact an attorney. You have 2 years from the date from which the incident happened. So just because there may not be a law in the county that protects you right now, that's not to say that we can't go back 8 months from now and help you. So anyone who feels as though something has happened, reach out to an attorney, talk about it, get an analysis. And if you do live in one of the 20 some odd municipalities that have enacted things like the Fair Practices Ordinance, we can sue right now. So there are some protections. It's not all around the Commonwealth, but still reach out and at least talk to an attorney and figure out whether you have something there.
And if people want to get in touch with you, Angela Giampolo and the Giampolo Law Group, phillygayLawyer.com.
It's very easy. Philly Gay Lawyer. Call it like it is.
I want to thank you once again for joining us. Angela Giampolo, who is the founder of phillygayLawyer.com and also Giampolo Law Group. This is a special segment dealing with LGBTQ issues. Speak Out with Angela Giampolo. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Lorraine.
I'm Lorraine Ballard Morrow.